G'day, welcome to the Sydney Review Show for the mailbag. The good racing is back and so are the good judges, and it was outstanding to have him back on the preview show for us last week. Mark Shean just rolled straight off the holiday and knocked one straight over the covers for a decent collect there with Skylab in the last. Mark, welcome to the review.
G'day Pete, and to Mark and also Rob. Yeah, an interesting day's racing at Randwick on Saturday. A bit of rain throughout the day, inside definitely off. Maybe a few bubbles burst, maybe a few, about to get a little bit fitter as the carnival goes on, particularly from the Hawk stable, which had a couple parade a bit on the nose.
Okay, very good. We'll dissect that in just a moment. Mark Rhoden, was there a highlight on the card for yourself?
Betting-wise, it was getting all-time legend beaten.
Yep.
Racing-wise, there were a few horses, and Skylab was one of them that really stamped themselves as having gone to a new level, and perhaps with more to come. So, going to be a bit to come out of this, I think. Okay,
and Rob Scurry just back with the good horses, and all of a sudden, just finding some very nice results there in the yard as well. Rob, just off the bat, was there one that you really thought took your eye more than any other?
Well, the Profiteer, I think I said to Mark on the day, this just looks like capitalist. I just was walking towards it, and I'm like, I bet, I looked at it, and I thought, just my inner person, my inner voice said, that's a capitalist colt. That's a capitalist horse, and it was, and it just looks exactly like him. And Peltzer, he could have put a few people off the way he paraded, but Jack Dickens has got me looking for this one thing that he was doing that made me think, he's all right. He's going to go well here.
Okay, well, let's start off with some of the 2-year-olds in race 1 over the 1,000 metres. Tillian, I think that's how we're pronouncing that, was the victor of what was an even tempo for the class. The overall figure on the Punting Form data, however, is actually stronger than the race that Profiteer won, which is very interesting. Mark Rhoden, I'll just start with yourself. Is that the way that your figures have it as well?
Well, yes. I mean, you sort of have to, but I think we'll get to Profiteer later. Probably the most impressive thing about him was, sectionally he's been pretty poor weight, clearly the slowest last 200 of the day of any of the winners. But he was able to, put the acid on his rivals, destroy them and win by a big margin. So that shows that he has the capability to cope with a high-pressure race like the Golden Slipper. But, just on the raw numbers of what he did on Saturday, it wasn't as impressive as we first thought. These have gone really well. I backed Testimonial, and I thought it was in a bit of traffic, but once it saw clear air, I thought we were in business. But the winner, who was one in front of it, just left it. A very impressive performance by the winner. Figures quite good, as we've touched on. We'll just mention this, the Gary Nixon horse. It ran okay in the very high rating Stay Inside race a couple of weeks back at about 200 to 1 again, and it's gone around 200s again on Saturday and closed off really well for fourth. Looking for 1,200. Probably want to see a jockey change on it if you're going to put your hard earned on it, but 2 really good runs at about 201 from it now.
Yeah, it's certainly an interesting race to dissect purely on a data point of view. Mark Shean, what are you doing with these 2-year-olds?
Well, I think the race fitness was the edge here. We had a couple of first starters. Nasdaq Dubai looked a very squibby type in the yard. Conglomerate paraded well, but he did a few things wrong in the trial, and he did that on race day as well. I think Testimonial still had a lot of improvement. Yep. I think she's probably not going to get to the top level, though, judging by that run. But there is still a bit of room to move with her.
Okay. And Rob, just based on type, obviously you're pretty taken with the way Profiteer walked around, but did any of these 2-year-olds necessarily take your eye?
Yeah, I sent Conglomerate as a bet, but just the map was never going to work out there, and that was the play, and I had small savers on the 12 and the 13, so luckily just sort of a break square race for me. Look, as Mark said, Nasdaq Dubai, that looked really tuned up. It was almost a today or never, as I say, for our subscribers. I can't see where the improvement is this time in for that horse, but maybe back in grade he could get away with one. But the figures adjusted for first use of the track. It hadn't really rained yet. Is that possibly a trap?
Yeah, well, they got the best of the track, didn't they? the rain sort of started after that. So, yeah, they probably had an edge in that respect. Retriever wasn't a bad run here. He did pull up lame, 4-5 lame, missed the start and then came up on the rail in the worst ground. And I think Rob will concur that he still looked like he had a bit of improvement as well. So if he can overcome his issues with some lameness there, he might be one to follow.
Okay, very good. We'll touch on race 3, which was obviously the Written Beauty race. It was only a small field, very slow tempo in terms of what they did on the punting form data for the class, 6.3 lengths slow to the 600, but was still good enough in the end. Rob, how did Written Beauty parade on resumption?
Best type, but pretty sweaty, pretty towy. Got a lot of improvement in it. Just got away with one here. I went with Zanaya. I thought that looked very forward. But yeah, I got that one wrong. You know, if Space Boy Jumps might have really given the favourite at a race. I guess she didn't have any favours in the run. Written Beauty, she just got the job done. But definitely a good type. One of the better types. You know, of mares I've seen for a while. Certainly sprinting mares.
Mark Shean, is that how you saw the race unfold?
Yeah, she looked a lot worse than the last time I'd seen her at Canterbury when she won. She was very much on the toe in the yard, sweated up. Had been hosed as well, I think, but she was definitely on the toe and certainly had improvement to come.
Okay. And Mark Rhoden, the figure overall is pretty strong for this race in terms of the overall on the day. It's about 1 length off what the best figure was.
Yeah, at the time, I thought she hadn't been overly impressive, despite the wide trip and and her getting hot and all that kind of thing. Those little negatives, I thought she'd won sort of despite that, and wasn't overly impressive. But her late sectionals have been really good, and I think she showed that day she won at Moonee Valley, Cox Plate weekend. She's going to be at her best when she can sit off a fast tempo, I think, and dash home. She's got a good platform. She might be top class. I don't know. I mean, she hasn't proven that yet, but she's certainly she's likely raced and got a platform for sure.
Yep, absolutely. Race 5 was the Millennium, the 1100 metre 2-year-old race, and Profiteer, as we talked about, was far too strong off that fast tempo which it set. He's gone 2.9 lengths fast to the 600, so a pretty genuine tempo, and the rest of them just clearly were in a different league. Although I did hear Darren Flindell, I'm pretty sure I heard this, I was sitting at Caulfield, so I might have misheard, but did he call this horse a superstar in the straight? I mean, it might have been going off just a little bit early, Darren, but anyway, Rob, you've talked about Profiteer, looks like Capitalist. Did any of these other horses look remotely like Capitalist?
No. But, you know, the Capitalist was just like a medium-sized professional 2-year-old. I'm not saying it's like the best 2-year-old I've ever seen or anything, but it just looked like a carbon copy or a clone. Look, I didn't mind the 6. Look, they all looked trained, you know, pretty much set for the race. Like, all these horses kind of paraded really well, most of them quite professionally. I'll say Ashima paraded much better than she did the other week. But yeah, look, no best bet race for me. I'm not sure, you know, these sales races can be, you know, tricky going forward. Profiteer, maybe it will be overhyped. You know, Darren's not helping there with that. But, you know, it was impressive, I thought. You know, it raced a little bit keen as well in the lead. Obviously, that's cost us a bit late with the it knocking up a little bit late. But, yeah, it's beaten sales. It's won in the sales restricted race, so let's not get too carried away. But, you know, it looks like Ethar's got something to race.
Mark Shean, are you giving any of these other horses behind Profiteer a chance going forward?
Not for big races. No, they are. A lot of these will end up in the midweeks. Ashima was second favourite here, and she'll be lucky to win a midweek race. She's a dead set 900, 1,000 metre horse, so it was second favourite. So it just shows you the depth of the race. I think they're just an average bunch behind the winner.
Sure thing. And Mark Rhoden, as we touched on, the overall figure for Profiteer, it's just looking at his first ever run, that was about 2 lengths stronger. So he's obviously got some level of improvement to come.
Yeah, he's got something. He hasn't been the way they rode him on Saturday. Well, watching the race, I'd just had spec bets around him because of the price, which obviously didn't pay off. But watching the race, I thought at halfway home, I thought this is going to carve up. This has gone way too hard, and for him to absorb that pressure. Admittedly, he's racing the blind. We've established that, but He's got something. He's got something he hasn't been ridden efficiently on Saturday to return his best figure. Put it that way.
Look, the advantage for him is he's got speed, and around Rose Hill, that will be a big advantage for him. But whether something can just sit off him and run a stronger 1,200 metres is the thing you got to bet against him on.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he's the best 2-year-old we've seen. I'm not tipping him for the slipper or anything, but to give him his best chance of winning the slipper, you'd want to see him ridden a little more conservatively than that, I would say.
Be very interesting to see what the market does with him next start. Obviously, a lot will depend on who he meets, but can't wait to see what the market does with him next start. Race 6 on the card was the Eskimo Prince over 1,200, the Group 3 set weights with penalties for the 3-year-olds, and Peltzer, as Rob alluded to, has done some good things off a slow tempo. Overall figure barely broke benchmark, so it's a little bit iffy, but I guess he's just had to do what he's required to do there. Rob, Peltzer was the standout from your point of view here in this yard?
Just the fact that he seems to have put on weight and condition. I was expecting a bit more from North Pacific. It doesn't look like it's grown from spring to autumn. So that had me wanting to bet in the race. Yes, he got very sweaty in the yard, Peltzer, but that's a trait that he's always sort of had. He became a bet when the bit of softness I think helps. But I can't see. I think he's the best 3-year-old in Australia. There it is. I don't know, maybe he's just a Randwick horse, but I think he's got a heap of improvement, and the world's his oyster this time in. The face paraded much better than it did the start before, so I kind of level stake the two, and I'm not sure what to do with North Pacific. I think he'll be coming off a very low SP, so he'll be short again wherever he goes, but I can't see him getting past Peltzer at 1,400, 1,600. No, not for me.
Mark Shean, how are you going to be following this race as a form line going forward?
Yeah, well, it was such a slowly run race, and Peltzer with the scratching and Vanelli ended up getting the soft run. The face has had a few runs, and he's only a lightly framed horse, only got left in front there and got run down. But Peltzer did a good job. North Pacific probably ran up to his trials, looked very dour, and raced something in the same ilk on Saturday. I'm not sure what to make of him. Wasn't glowing in the coat like he was last time in, so maybe got some improvement, but just the way he trialled and the way he raced on Saturday, don't think it'd be touching him until at least he got to a mile and showed a bit more dash.
I think that's fair enough. Mark Rhoden, there's a couple of nice splits here, especially from Prague, but the race overall, just looking from a sectional and data point of view, there's probably not too much to come out of some of the beaten brigade.
No, nothing special on time. Thanks to Rob. The only thing I was going to do in the race was back North Pacific if I got a big tick from Rob from the yard, and he was anything but positive about him, so I just stayed out of the race and I saved my money. I was very pleased to do that, but I'm finished with him until I see any evidence to suggest he's come back. He just may not have trained on. As Mark said, the trials were nothing special, and he was unsuited. He was back in a walk here, but Prague was back with him and gave him pneumonia at the top of the straight. So, he's not to be backed until we see a reason to. And, not much to come out of the race. Peltzer will be better at 1,400, perhaps, getting control of a race. But, I don't have a huge opinion of the face, so that sort of colours my judgment of this race a bit, I suppose. I'm not overly excited.
Race 7 on the card was the English Sprint over 1,200 for the 3-year-olds. They've gone fast for the class here, about 3.5 lengths fast to the 600, courtesy of Malkovich. Oldkirk's obviously settled a little bit further back than the eventual winner, Rocketing By, and also Prime Star. But it must be pointed out that this is the best figure that Oldkirk has run on first up for a preparation. Rob, how did Oldkirk look first of all? And then you had the winner in Rocketing By and Prime Star. How did those leading fancies look in the yard?
Well, I couldn't have Oldkirk here as a $2. It looked like a $6 shot to me. Not even that. The only reason I put it in the numbers is because I thought people would want to know what I thought of it. It looked a bit sweaty. Looked like it hadn't grown much to me, I just wasn't overly taken with it. I just recalled, I lost fair bit of units of money on the Rocketing Buy race the start before when I was on the second horse, Rule the World or whatever it's called, and he just paraded a lot better to me than he did that day. So I just thought, with a good speed guaranteed, it could only improve off its last run. So that became a bet. Prime Star looked really well, a little bit fat. Like I recall backing him at Rose Hill first up last time. He took me more that day. I was as happy to let him go around. But yeah, I just thought there was a bit of a hole in the market here. So I saved on my old girlfriend, Dame Giselle. She looked much better to my eye than the old Kirk. So, that was the one in the market that I could see winning. But I thought the ride on it was a bit confusing. It was good. It was good. Kieran did me a favour for a change, and I think I even put it in the text like, "Oh God, Kieran's on." That's a troll. Kieran on this after him getting done by the other horse, but it got to a huge price, and finally, found a long price winner, so that was great.
Yeah, bloody good work by yourself, Mark Shean. Rocketing Buyers improved every start this prep, obviously unbeaten, but has gone and improved, say, about 10 lengths first up to second up, and then 8 lengths again, second up to third up. What did you make of this horse going into the race?
No, Rob was right. He did parade a lot better, and it was a good find from Rob there. I suppose in hindsight, you look back now and the pace of this race may not have suited the horses that were first up. The fact that it was such a strongly run race and they've run such fast time has actually suited a horse that had a bit of residual fitness on its side. And as it's turned out, I wasn't on the winner, but that's the only way I can approach the race and say that these other horses have got a lot of improvement. Ole Kirk was unbackable on looks, just couldn't possibly get near it. Then you had to find the winner, but I think Ole Kirk has still run really well. He's got a lot of improvement, and I wouldn't be sacking him off that defeat.
Okay, Mark Rhoden, that's certainly the way that it looks, just looking at the data here.
Yeah, Ole Kirk's done enough. I was very critical of North Pacific in the previous race. I won't be having anything to do with him until further notice. But Ole Kirk, he did enough. I'm a bit concerned to hear Rob say he hasn't grown and developed from spring to autumn. But just on form and figures, what we saw on Saturday, I think he's come back certainly well enough. Yeah, this winner's one of the horses on the program. You touched on the amount he's improved on raw figures, but the thing about him is that both at Nowra and last start, his closing sections were really good and visually he looked impressive with his turn of foot. I didn't give him a chance on Saturday because I thought, well, he's done that, having a really soft time of it early. He's clearly got a turn of foot, but he was unleashing it after doing no work in the first half of the race on both those occasions. But while he might have had comparative advantages over the first uppers on Saturday, he's now shown that he can stay in touch in a fast pace and still unleash that turn of foot, which makes him a force to be reckoned with in anything they put him in. Yep. The only knock at him going forward is going to be that K-Macca was going to be riding him in races worth less than $1 million, which is an absolute no in my book. So that's going to be the black mark against him.
Yeah. Look, I'm not out there with a ruler when I'm looking at these horses from spring to autumn and seeing how much they're grown. It's just a recollection. I could be wrong, but yeah, to my eye, Ole Kirk and North Pacific haven't grown. So yeah, it's as I said.
But you couldn't say physically they're going backwards either. They've paraded how they, apart from North Pacific not glowing in the Cape. Excuse me, I think Ole Kirk sort of held his own compared to last preparation. And it's not like going from 2 to 3. They're still 3-year-olds.
Yeah, they're still. But what about Peltzer? Is he? I know he's always been a big boy, but now he seems like a really big boy.
Yeah, he looks nice. He looks. Yeah.
Yeah, he wouldn't be out of place in a weight for age race. To my eye, he gets sweaty and stuff, but maybe he won't deeper into the prep. I just think he's the one with even more improvement, and he's got a racing pattern too.
Okay, that's all good information there. Let's go touch on race 8 because it was the best figure of the day recorded by the winner in Shared Ambition, as well as Mount Popper, it must be said. They've come off an even tempo here for the class, and Mark Rhoden, you pretty much picked this race apart very nicely. You were happy to give all-time legend a miss, who was setting the tempo and got the result there either way. Yeah,
back first and second. I might have been a bit lucky. I certainly didn't have S. Price making the most of his trip to town on a Saturday and driving all-time legend mad like he did, which has certainly played into the hands of first and second a lot more than all-time legend. But yeah, as I said on Thursday, although all-time legend was obviously very unlucky last start, he was meeting a much stronger field here, so I was happy to play around him. And yes, it panned out very nicely for first and second. All-time legend. I thought he fought on pretty well, actually, considering the hell of a time that Secunderabad gave him. But one of Mount Popper and Shared Ambition was going to win it from a fair way out.
Yes. Rob, on the previous show, we were very keen to see how Mount Popper in particular paraded. How did he parade to your eye?
Paraded very proudly. He's sharp. He just kind of like trotted around, neck arch, got pretty hot, but he looked forward enough to my eyes. So look, there's enough to say maybe, some yard watchers would have said big no, but to me he looked like a happy horse who wanted to race. So I couldn't completely dismiss him. I've pulled the wrong rein with this Waller horse again. Order again, is it? No, not the other one. The Similar Silk. I thought he'd improved and couldn't miss a hole. And the winner, it's never been a horse of mine. It's always been a bit sort of overhyped, I've thought. But he's come back really well. He looked short of run. But yeah, I think it'll be a good race. Good race going forward. I'm very keen to see how Mount Popper parades next time. But yeah, I'm interested to hear what Mark Shean thought as well, and how he judges a horse like that. It gets a bit sweaty, toey, but positives and negatives. How do you read that?
I laid it. I didn't like the look of it at all, I've got to say. And he really surprised me looking at him, because I didn't see him in the yard when he won at Randwick last time, but I was expecting a more imposing type. He's a very lightly framed type, and I'm not sure how much work you can put into a horse like this to get... I thought he'd be going for a Sydney Cup, something like that. Just not sure how much work a lightly framed type like that could cop. So at this stage, he still might be, 6 months away from where I thought he would be. He ran well, cruised up to win. Shared Ambition, there was a good tip around for this, saying that they're training him more like a mile or 2,000 metre horse now, and he was pretty sharp. So, and there was a bit of money in the yard to say that he'd won well. And I think against that, we were saying that the price of all-time legend was way too short, even though he looked like he would get a soft lead, which he didn't. But a race that I'm happy that Shared Ambition put his head down.
Yes. I'll just point out, Shared Ambition has recorded some pretty big figures previously, more over that 2,000 metre plus range, as you alluded to there, Mark Shean, but that's clearly the best first up figure he's produced so far in his career.
Well, I think that one day there in the JRA plate at Randwick, he came from last, and it was a phenomenal run. I think everyone had him down as a Melbourne Cup winner, this time last year. But he just turned out to be a little bit down when he got up to that, just didn't have enough dash to meet the top stayers. So he might be better around the 2,000 metre mark.
Okay. We'll have a look at the last as well, the benchmark 78 over the mile, because Mark Shean, you didn't quite get the $11, and it had shortened in by the previous show by the time we recorded it. But on the day, it was $4.60 out to an SP of about, $8-9 or so, and it was a pretty decent performance in the end. Just run us through your thoughts going into the race there, Mark. You obviously had Skylab on top. Just run us through why you had that horse in your favour.
Oh, well, I've been watching this horse. I saw his couple of runs at Scone early on, and every run, I was on him one day at Gosford there. He went round in the creek all the way. He was dead set 20 wide and got beat a lip around Gosford. And no, he's just been a horse that I've been on his back, and I wasn't too happy in the run here. He was back near the inside in an awkward spot, and he looks to have come through in the zone where no other winners come. He's run a good final section. Admittedly, Blazer Trail didn't have a great deal of luck here, and he's only bashed up Zingance and Covered Spirit, but this horse will eat up 2,000 and 2,400 metres, so I can only see upside. Admittedly, he only had 52, but he's a 3-year-old on the improve.
Yep. Rob, run us through how Skylab and Blazer Trail paraded.
Oh, I was on the Blazer Trail first up. He looked a bit heavy that day. He looked a bit heavy again, but maybe his coat didn't look as good, but you got to judge that on it was different times of the day when I saw him. A cloudy day versus a bright sunny day at 2:00 versus it was nearly 6:00 by the time this race was run. So it's hard to get a read on that, but he's still got plenty of improvement in him. I certainly, he might be overbet. Unlucky horses are often overbet. But I did see Skylab. He's a sort of a wiry type of stayer. He tried to relax and well, and had him in the numbers. So I'm just a bit dirty. I didn't have something on him. But really pleased that Mark, Mark bloody good tip on a Friday. At $11 will win. Well done.
I think the rain played against Brazier Trail a little bit. I think even though he's won on dead ground at Hawkesbury, I think he's much better on top of the ground. As Rob said, he's a very heavy horse. And the fact that he was going from 13 to 16 in a fortnight as well, plus that bit of cut out of the track, he didn't have much luck in the straight. But I think with that run under his belt at the mile and on drier ground, he'll certainly improve.
Mark Rhoden, if I was looking at this race in isolation, given that they've run off an even tempo, I would say Skylab would be better suited going up in trip next start, and the rest of them I couldn't have if they went up in journey. Is that how you would have a look at it?
I haven't really thought about it, but yes. Well, Skylab's certainly going to appreciate a longer trip. I was very impressed with this horse on Saturday.
Yep.
Come through in the worst ground like that, really attacked the line. And another thing, I think he'll be better on dry ground. He's by Real Impact. None of them are wet trackers, not one. Real Impact by Deepak Impact himself. All those Japanese staying types are meant to be bone dry trackers. He might be an exception, but I wouldn't be at all surprised if he improved again on a dry track up in distance. Very promising horse, this one.
Yep.
Personally glad I bailed out of the race. I was tipping Blazer Trail on Friday. But gate 1 by race 9 was no for me. And even though Jay McDonald was very aware of that and tried to get off, he ended up in a personal battle with Kay McAvoy on Blondo for about 200 metres, which cost him any chance. I don't know if he was going to win, but certainly cost him his chance. So we'll forgive him and perhaps back on a drier track. But yes, Skylab certainly. I mean, no one would have missed him, but I'll certainly be following him wherever he turns up next.
We'll leave the conversation regarding Deep Impact, Real Impact and Japanese horses on wet versus dry with Rob Scurry for another day. That's probably a 2.5 hour conversation, I would imagine. But we'll leave you with a few horses to follow. Rob, I'll start with yourself. Who are you going to be following next start out of the yard?
Look, I'll probably give one more chance to the thing in race 1, the number 2. I failed to mention that. If it's drawn better, I like a 2-year-old. Beaten a fair way, but I think it's got some speed. I don't know, mate. Look, every week there'll be something new from now on. Just judge them, see as they come, and look for those things like rocketing by. The horses that parade well. Very interested to see how Mount Popper parades next time. That's enough.
And obviously you gave a decent enough push to Peltzer, but that 2-year-old was conglomerates. Mark Shean, horse to follow from yourself.
Yeah, well, I'll go with the 2 Darleys out of the first, Testimonial and Retrieval. I think looking at them in the yard, they've still had a bit up their sleeve, so I'm not saying that they're going to win any lead-ups to the Golden Slipper, but they might pick up a race in the near future. And apart from that, well, Ole Kirk, obviously a very good run considering how he looks, so that's the way I'd go from Saturday.
And Mark Rhoden, couple of horses to follow, or 1 or 2 for yourself?
Yeah, just as I touched on, very impressed with the wins of Skylab rocketing by. Also April Rain earlier sort of overcame probably the tempo was against her, but she overcame it again. I think she'll be at her best in a strong pace with a nice trail. And out of the Shared Ambition race, Dame Kiri, who I thought was a 100 to 1 chance in that class of race, she's closed off really well. I don't know where they go with her, but she's racing well.
All right, very
April
good.
Rain, another one declared by Mark Shean on the
That's
Friday.
Right, yeah, will win. He said we didn't even do the race. He just had to stick that one in as well.
Well, she's in the stable. She's been in the stable, so.
She's in the same stable as all-time legend for me. Back to first start at Canterbury, never since.
Actually, the worry with her Saturday was that she was staying at a distance around that 1250, 1300 metre mark, and it nearly upset her. I think she was probably looking for 14 or 1600 on Saturday, and she still managed to win. So she's a very good mare, got a good motor.
Yeah. I laid her at the 600, just making the spit outer.
Well,
She looked in trouble.
Run, it didn't look great.
Yeah.
Well, people are taking 240, you know. What can you do? And she's still got improvement to come. She's not fully wound up, you know, perfect waller. You know, still good amount of condition on her.
Excellent. That's good intel there from you, Rob. Week ahead, we've got Hawkesbury Tuesday, Warwick Farm Wednesday, Canterbury Friday, Gosford and Royal Randwick on Saturday, Mark Rhoden. That's a pretty busy old week.
Yep, full dance card. First of the 3 in a row at Canterbury Friday nights, and then they're done. And I'll be very pleased about that.
All right. Rob, we'll just see you at Randwick this week, or are you going to make the trip
mate.
to...
No, I'm not going to Canterbury again. It hasn't been working out. So I'll just go to Randwick and look forward to it. It's one of my favourite days at Polo Stakes. I think we've got the first of the Princess Series races, so the 3-year-old fillies. And, you know, there'll be a whole bunch of black type and group races and first up. It's just my go.
I was just going to say, Mark Shean, this is the pretty decent time of year, isn't it, if you enjoy punting and racing?
Well, it is a lot of work to do, but hopefully we'll find a winner along the way.
All right, beauty. We'll catch up later in the week to preview the weekend. Until then, enjoy the week, fellas, and enjoy the Super Bowl.
Thank you very much. See you later.